Ladies and gentlemen, judges and audience, good afternoon. We are part of the National Council of Biofuels for Aviation in Brazil, and we are here in response to the Sustainable Aviation Biofuel Develop Program. Today, our group is composed by Andre, Hugo, Bruno, Jonathan, and myself, Niara. We are going to start with the Brazilian scenario, why Brazil cannot afford to not participate of this program and how we are going to help Brazil to be part of it. After that, we are going to talk about our proposal, its details, and a few numbers to our investors. By the end of these presentations, we are going to make sure to you that we are your best choice. Now the question is, why are we here? Nowadays, 40% of the flight ticket cost comes from the price of the fuel. Also, every year, the CO2 emission from the jet industry increase. By 2015, we want to decrease this value by 50%. We want to develop a sustainable environment where you can pay less to fly and not making our next generations to pay for it. In this context, Brazil, since the 70s with the pro-alcohol program, has been a pioneer with the biofuel industry, bringing the growth of the industry and the refinement technologies. Three reasons make the Brazil the right choice for the biofuel production. First, we have great weather conditions. Second, low cost of production. And third, since the 70s, we have the domain of the know-how.
So, although Brazil has this good scenario indicator for the development of aviation biofuel industry, there's still some gaps to need to be fulfilled, right? For example, we have nowadays in Brazil several initiatives that aims of the development of the aviation biofuel industry, but we don't have nothing that integrates them. So in this context, we present you our main proposal that is based on a creation of a center of research and integration of biofuel industry that will be based on three main pillars: the feedstock, the research, and the biofuel scale production. So the first step is the feedstock production. Is the first step for the consolidation of this industry. We evaluate a lot of scenarios in order to find the best pros and cons of each feedstock. And our conclusion is that diversification, source diversification is a necessary evil. We need to do this to establish the offer. So we choose two main feedstocks to be developed through this project. The first one is the sugarcane. Brazil has been developing sugarcane industry since the 16th century. So there's a lot of know-how associated with this feedstock production. In addition, Brazil is the main producer of sugarcane in the world due to its weather conditions and cost production. There's another good indicator such as a positive trend in terms of production that has been constant from the last 30 years. But we need to stable the offer of the feedstock from biofuels production. So our second source is the eucalyptus. The eucalyptus is a promising source that has been developing for biofuel production over the past 7 years. And its main aspects that support its selection are, first, Brazil represents the lowest cost of eucalyptus production in the world. Second, there are already a lot of initiatives that are engaging the reforestation policies in terms of this feedstock. In addition, the biochemical conversion associated for the ethanol refining process is similar to the ethanol. But now that you have those two sources, how we are going to integrate them? And how is it possible? First, as I said, the refining process is similar. Second, the production is concentrated in the same region of Brazil, which is the southeast region, which will be the region where our center will be located. And third, last but not least, those two feedstocks, they not compete among themselves for other market niches. In this context, that our center, you act in order to guarantee the feasibility of those feedstock productions in terms of incentives and expansion analysis, and also the investments in research and development. So now the question is, why research and development is important? Um, we have in Brazil a lot of associations, a lot of good universities that are engaged in the biofuel industry research. But there's no like organization that can gather all of those people and say, let's work together to develop this industry. So the center will be acting in promoting events, conference, meetings, workshops, in order to promote this exchange of information through all of those centers. Not only universities, but also associated industrial needs and the production needs. So the center will be managing all of those three main areas. The last pillar is the biofuel scale production, which is a really important aspect of the acceleration of this industry. The logistics in Brazil has an unbalanced matrix. We have a lot of problems with logistics. The center will not be engaged to construct new roads, but will act together with governmental initiatives such as the CONIT, which is the Council for Infrastructure Development of the country, in order to propose the needs from the biofuel aviation industry as it's being developed. So, as it's being developed, the expansion will be required. So the center will be also evaluating how does the demand and the offer will affect both the industry, research, and the offer. Therefore, the center will conduct those market studies and also incentives the expansion through new arable lands in Brazil. The last topic is about fiscal incentives. The cost production of scale biofuel industry is still high, but we can try to approach a sustainable industry from this through fiscal incentives. So the center will be working on managing those fiscal incentives through tax credit and also carbon credits management. So if an industry that is responsible for producing ethanol from eucalyptus, for example, it can be engaged to the carbon credit selling through another companies. We are also proposing the creation of a seal that will integrate all of those processes, the green wing seal. And first, our approach was give a lot of seals with a lot of different aspects of the whole supply chain. But then we figured out that if you can condense that into just one seal that represents the whole meaning of our integration, it would be easier and better for the integration purpose. So the seal will guarantee in the whole supply chain how does the center will be engaged with the feedstock production, industrial production, and the research.
The center facilities will be composed of laboratories where research will be made, meeting centers where different stakeholders can gather and share information, as well as a cultural center available to the population of Southeast Brazil with learning areas and exposition halls. So the laboratories will be sponsored by companies interested in the jet biofuel industry. And we will have production samples in the area so the researchers can take use of them. Now, the most important question is, what are the impacts of our project? So we can summarize the impacts in three major areas, which are environmental, economic, and social. As a reference center, the CPIB will be very committed to the environment. So we expect to stimulate farmers and producers to take place in more initiatives that are sustainable by means of the sustainable seal, the green wing seal. And we also expect that using sugarcane and eucalyptus as a feedstock, we can obtain a climate-neutral fuel. And with reforestation policies, we will reduce GHG emissions. Now, in the economic area, the CPIB will act in order to reduce the competition between the jet biofuel and other industries. And we will be also creating job opportunities and new partnerships between several companies in Brazil. That's our main focus. We want the development of the southeast region of Brazil. Now, the center is also very committed to the cultural development. Since we have the research center, we will allow that students from all over the country to take place on different researches so they can develop technologies alongside companies, which allow Brazil to take part as a leading country in the jet biofuel production. Also, with the cultural center, we think that we will create a link between the general population and CPIB, which will allow them to understand how the center works and what are our goals. So that's what we want. We want the population to understand how the government is dealing with this issue and how CPIB will help them in this endeavor.
So taking into account the previous consideration, we'll talk about the projection analysis that consists in diversify our feedstock in Brazil, mainly in southwest of Brazil. That in order of that, we are going to stabilize the biofuel price, jet biofuel price in Brazil. And through that, we are going to increase the feedstock production in Brazil and encouraging the technology development. All of that is to establish Brazil as a leader, as producer of jet biofuel, natural oil, worldwide. One of the risks that we consider is the harvest crisis that we can deal with plagues and weather conditions that can decrease our production of our feedstock, mainly sugarcane and eucalyptus. To solve that, we will take care, study in parallel how to solve this problem and be track on how to deal with weather conditions and plagues. Another one, CPIB can be rejected in the market. One solution, we will incentive a good policy and people that will deal with our center. So it may help to engage CPIB in the market. Another one is the market competition. That it's a problem mainly with sugarcane, and in order to deal with that, we will increase or offer us. Will increase the demand, and so try to stabilize the market for our feedstock. Another one is delay in development of refining process. There's a big problem that we will solve that with transferring, we'll try to engage technology transfer agreements, and in order to solve these problems that we can deal with in the future. And now that we know the risks, the projections, we will talk about more about the budget.
This Gantt chart, this Gantt diagram, represents our schedule for the completion plan. And each period is equivalent to 6 months. And for the facility construction, comparing CPIB with similar institutes and using an average price of construction in the southeast of Brazil, we got to a projection of $8 million to be spent in 1.5 years. This includes the land acquisition, hiring personnel, environmental licenses, and building material. For the maintenance, including all the fixed costs, such as water supply and electricity, based on similar buildings, we are estimating to a required investment of $3 million. We need personnel, so including staff, maintenance personnel, and provisory personnel for the events. We are expecting to spend $1.5 million. For the incentives and sales, based on the actual market size and the potential producers, we are expecting to spend $13 million. The cost share, no, with all these advantages we are proposing, we are asking for just 25% of the total budget you are willing to spend with your entire portfolio. So, but we are not alone in this endeavor. Up to now, we count on Embraer, Biogi, Petrobras, and Imaris as our partners. And Petrobras, for example, is planning to spend $2.3 billion with biofuels up to 2018. And the FIP, the investment fund in aerospace participations, is another point in our favor, since it is an additional stimulus for the benefited companies to invest in us. As mentioned, the companies will mainly sponsor the laboratories. Nevertheless, this chart is taking into account the technology transfer as well. We got to these numbers based in the R&D investments of these companies. Our expected total is $34.6 million to be spent between 2015 and 2017. In sum, we plan to meet the expectations through the integration of the feedstock, the eucalyptus and sugarcane. CPIB comes to integrate the research, the industry, and the feedstock production. We will impact the three main pillars of sustainability: the social, economic, and environmental. In the social one, there will be an inherent technological development, because the students will be developing research, and the population will know what we are doing and why we are doing it. In the economical aspect, we will decrease the competition for feedstock. We will create more jobs by means of growing the industry, and we will integrate the supply chain. For the environmental purposes, we expect not just to protect the environment, but make it be benefited by our project with our seals. The vision we have is Brazil being the world's reference in biofuel production for aviation industry, leading the world to get to the expected outcome, which is the acceleration of the development of aviation biofuels. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your attention. And you can follow us on Facebook and on other media. And you are receiving a handout as well with our contacts. And now we are open to answer any questions you may have.
At what point do you mix the two feedstocks? While they're raw or after they've been refined?
So thank you for your question. We know that the diversification is an important aspect. So maybe answering your question is why sugarcane and eucalyptus, right? And how do we integrate them? So we have one main advantage because they are produced in the same region of Brazil. The most part of the production is concentrated in the same area. So we have this geographical advantage. Second, there's several methods that you can use to refine the feedstock to the ethanol to the jet biofuel. There's you can use thermochemical process, you can use biochemical process, you can use, there's several different processes. Those both two sources, they are based on the same process. The refinement is similar. It's not actually the same, but it's really similar. So we are proposing to integrate these to the refinement process as well. Let's say that we have factories that we work together with those both feedstocks. not like in the same line, but it's the same like kind of technology. Um, in addition, for example, the sugarcane is a really good and reliable source, but we had already experienced some crisis because of the sugar demand from it. So it has this its competition with the food market, right? The eucalyptus doesn't have this competition. It's a more like not well-established source for biofuel generation, but the biomass produced by the eucalyptus for the conversion process comes from the waste of the cellulosic industry. And so there's no like this competition. And that's why we want to diversify, because we want to stabilize the offer, we want to increase the production, and therefore we want to reduce the costs. Thank you.
Thank you. So you guys said that you want to develop this center in the southeast region of Brazil, and I wonder why this region? It's one of the most developed regions in the country, and I was just wondering why. Is it because of its infrastructure that it's already there, or what's the reason for that?
One of our first, let's say, strategy of our project is like we have this project budget that is only available until 2017. So there's like increasing a demand that needs to suppress as soon as possible. So our strategy was like to let's use what is already developed in the country. We can like maybe put an industry in a region that doesn't have like much universities around, that doesn't have much production around, because you can't invest too much in logistics, for example. We can invest too much in this, let's say, to sell those products, to reach to the demand, because the demand of Brazil is also concentrated in the southeast region of Brazil. So the main universities that are concentrated in the southeast region of Brazil, the main production is concentrated in the southeast region of Brazil. So why not start from there? You know, all the companies are over there, and we want to use that. We don't want to start from the zero. We want to start from what is like reliable to invest in.
Anybody from the audience?
Are there any more questions? So I just would like to thank you again, the audience, to thank you, the judge, to thank you for all the support through the 6 weeks. It was really worth it. I would say that Mr. Lakeman, thank you, was a pleasure to work with you. You really inspired us. It was really helpful showing this new sustainable way. Sometimes we as engineers, we don't see much of this, but this project helped us to be engaged with this. Thank you, Melissa, also for our inspiring work for us. It really makes the difference through the whole process. And thank you to all my colleagues through this whole 6 weeks. Thank you, guys.